What's an FPS series that everybody knows? What's an FPS series that is just practically everywhere? You can try to run away from it, but it'll always come back to you with the Desert Eagle and extremely realistic skins. Your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your uncle who fled to Cuba because he didn't want to pay the IRS taxes all know it. That's right. Of course, I'm talking about Call of Juarez? Yeah, that's what you thought of, wasn't it? So, Call of Juarez. Some of you may or may not remember it, but it was a series of FPS Western games developed by Polish dev Techland that revolved around good old shootin' and hootin' gameplay and, well, the Wild West. Before we got Red Dead Redemption, we had a preacher quoting the Bible to guys to get an easy headshot.
For everyone that doth evil hateth the light.
This is peak gaming right here, guys. The reason you probably might not remember it, however, is probably because there hasn't been a single game in the series since 2013, and that it was completely eclipsed by Techland's Dying Light just 2 years later, causing Techland to leave it in the dark in favor of Dying Light, which I wouldn't blame him. I mean, Jesus, look at those sales, man. That's more than the entire population of Sweden. But fans of the Western genre have been wanting something different other than Red Dead, and Call of Juarez seems like the type of series to make that call, but it just never answers. Thankfully, though, it looks like that's about to change pretty soon with rumors of Techland developing a new Call of Juarez game that's going to be made on... Oh no! So in honor of this potential disaster, I thought it would be a good time to go back to a forgotten but remarkable series of good old Bible-quenching Western games. So put on that hat, hop on your horse, and don't get tuberculosis along the way as we ride head on to the first game in the series, Call of Juarez. Call of Juarez started development around 2003, which was initially called Lawman before they changed it to the much less generic sounding Call of Juarez as a sort of response to the lack of Wild West games out on the market at the time. There weren't that many Wild West games pre-2004. Like, the only Wild West games I can think of that came out around that period was Mad Dog McCree, and that's only because of a funny Germa bit.
You missed that one. Try another.
He doesn't.
You missed that one. Try another. You missed that one. Try another.
And of course, the peak that is the town with no name.
Come back, Shane!
My name's not Shane, kid.
So it was kind of an opportunity for Techland to make something truly unique and special, as they had spent the last 12 years or so making cheap bargain bin games that had about as much impact as a Skillet album. Sorry to any of you FIM Speedway Grand Prix fans out there, I'm sure it'll get the Unreal Engine 5 remake it's always deserved, don't you worry. So after 3 years of scrap concepts, making sure the visuals would explode everyone's computer, and adding in historically accurate Spanish insults,
Are you a Mexican or a Mexicant?
I'm a Mexican.
in 2006, Call of Juarez would finally arrive. Only in European homes, however, because it wouldn't make it to the States until nearly a year later. Probably because of all the denied Visa cards.
I'm Billy. Ma'd never say who my father was, so I don't got no last name. She gave me this medallion before I could talk. It's engraved with a candlestick, so that's what the kids call me. Candle. Eats spick or pepper gut. Yeah, my mom's from Mexico. The town I grew up in is just over the border, and the folks there are mostly white. Like my stepfather, Thomas. A big, mean son of a bitch who'd just as soon backhand me as look at me. I grew up in a town called Hope. Pretty much the most hopeless place I ever seen. It's full of drunks and drifters and thieves and liars. And those are the leading citizens. Like my dear stepfather, who knocked the tar out of me at least once a day, rain or shine. He said he was teaching me how to be a man, but all he taught me is how to take a beating. Last time he laid a hand on me was over 2 years ago. I took off and didn't look back. Left to find my fortune. The legendary Call of Juarez. Wanted to prove to that SOB that I could be more than he ever was. But the world's a hard place. I didn't find squat. Did meet a girl, though. Molly. Damn, she was pretty. It didn't work out, though. Her dad saw to that. So now I'm back. Hungry, broke. I don't have nothing. Not even a last name.
Call of Juarez starts off with a Mexican kid named Billy Candle, who returns to his childhood town, Hope, after failing to find the gold of Juarez, to his mother, Marissa, and his stepfather, Thomas, who isn't really the best of dads, and thus starts the opening level of the game. You sneak, you jump, you lasso, you get a blowjob, wait what, and you run. And it's not really a great opening level. This opening level immediately showcases the faults and pros of Call of Juarez, in that it's a Eurojank game, and it's a Eurojank game.
No rules, no boundaries. He doesn't flinch at torture, human trafficking, or genocide.
Call of Juarez has a lot of ambition and uniqueness with its ideas, and one of those ideas was making the two playable characters, Billy Candle and Ray McCall, who is the brother of Thomas by the way, be massively different with their levels. While one is a shootin' and hootin' Bible-quoting badass Chad, the other is a scared, helpless, and fragile little virgin who tries his best to survive in this harsh, crazy world, which is all of us really. While this sounds like a pretty good idea bringing a lot of variety within the game, the actual execution of it is far from ideal, as Billy's levels are an absolute painful slog to get through. First, his stealth sections, his stupid stealth sections. They mainly consist of him hiding in bushes, sneaking around old guys, and occasionally getting into fights and dying because he's as fragile as a goddamn Cybertruck. Now, that doesn't sound too bad, but the main problem here is that these sections take way too fucking long to complete. Case in point, Episode 4, A New Hope. After Billy is done with his small town shenanigans and goes back to his barn home, he suddenly finds his parents murdered.
He said it! He said it!
And goes on the run after being blamed for the murders by Ray. He then goes to a mining area where he thinks that there's a train that leads to San Jose where he can find his one and only love, Molly, who he thinks is extremely beautiful, somehow. Which starts at least 15 minutes of hiding in bushes and waiting for thunderstorms so that he can even walk safely, not counting fails. I'm not saying that the fact that stealth exists is bad, not at all, it's just that they're implemented in just a really boring and bland way. Typically in stealth games, they don't have characters just sneaking around. No, they supply them with numerous tools and maneuvers at their disposal for the player to have some experimental fun with. Metal Gear Solid, of course, has the box, the fake balloon big bosses from 5 that could trick guards, close combat, and ape escape, I guess.
So you're an agent, huh? Sure are one brave little monkey.
Splinter Cell, Sam Fisher can climb up walls and pipes to either shoot guys from a distance or drop down on their asses, use doors to knock guys out, shot guys if they so dare stand in a puddle, and sass talk them.
Didn't anyone ever tell you that spelunking is dangerous?
Oh no! You are going to kill me, right?
Only if you say the word monkey. Now tell me something I want to know.
Monkey.
And in Hitman, well, the possibilities are damn near endless, including poisoning a pair of panties for a pervert guard to sniff and die on. Call of Juarez, however, has absolutely none of that. It's literally just sneaking around. No fun allowed, no fun experiments, no fun weapons. You get nothing. I get why they didn't have those types of things for these sections since it's in the Wild West, but that makes me even more confused on why Techland would do it in the first place. Stealth is the last thing most people would think of when they think of the Wild West. Have you ever seen Clint Eastwood try to sneak past a bunch of guys?
There's a Mexican, a Jew, and a colored guy go into a bar. The bartender looks up and says, "Get the fuck out of here."
No, his spine would collapse and fly away to heaven right before he can make it there first. They're easily the worst parts of the game, and I don't know how testers played them and thought, yeah, this is alright, people will definitely love this. Secondly, the platforming sections. They just don't work.
And that sometimes it doesn't just work.
They're obviously inspired by Half-Life 2, but it seems like Techland forgot that Half-Life 2 was, you know, good, and instead they have the same quality as the Xen level from Half-Life 1. The physics for objects are just really fiddly at the best of times, made worse by the perspective often obscuring where you're trying to place the objects, as the camera doesn't lock onto them like it does in Half-Life 2. So you'll just be jumping around trying to place a box somewhere like you're moving into a new house. If you could even afford one, that is. The lasso that Billy is equipped with is also not intuitive in the slightest, as where he can even hook the lasso up is not really clear. You usually just use the lasso on conveniently placed tree branches, but you have to look at a specific part of the trees in order to use it, and this can be pretty annoying as you continuously whip the tree like it's your slave to simply tie and swing around it. The swinging itself is pretty jank, as you can sometimes struggle to really judge your distance when swinging, and that you can't even jump all that far from it, causing you to fall to the all-encompassing abyss that all video game characters eventually fall into, the game over screen and loading times. Billy's levels are also absolutely gargantuan, which I'm very sure was to flex all the graphical muscle the game has, but it's at the cost of clear directions and design, which is something that Half-Life 2 was also good at. How strange is that? Going back to episode 4 again, near the end of it, there's a cliff that Billy climbs up that's near where the train is. I assume that it would follow a pretty basic structure of going from down to up, but once I reach up, it's just a dead end. Shit, what do? Do I endlessly crack my whip towards this tree hoping that I can lasso it? No, you fucking idiot, you climb up this ledge here to the right. Oh, well, okay. Guess we're making it to Busan at— OH MY FUCKING GOD! All of these problems are vomited out in a big puddle in episode 9, which is definitely the worst level in the entire game, and probably the worst level in any Western game I've ever played. Episode 9 is also coincidentally the worst Star Wars movie.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
So basically, this native guy named Calmwater wants you to prove that you're a brave big man, big boy who can take on a big world by killing 3 rabbits and retrieving a single feather from some mountain. I don't know, sneaking around a camp filled with gun-wielding dudes and successfully running away from said gun-wielding dudes counts as pretty brave to me, but okay. And here's the many problems this level has. 1, it's way too fucking big. Like, I'm pretty sure you could fill the entire Vice City map here and it would look like an ant compared to this level. This makes the objective of hunting down the rabbits an absolute pain to do. The only hint you're given to where they're at is that they hide in red-flowered bushes. But wait, where are those red-flowered bushes? We don't fucking know, just go and find them. Easy, yada yada yada. I probably spent at least 40 minutes wandering around the map until I just gave up and looked up a walkthrough, and that's for the simple act of killing 3 rabbits. Not even 5, just 3 rabbits. But that's only just part 1 of this torture session, as you also have to climb up a huge ass mountain for a stupid feather that you could easily get by shooting a pigeon like your Nico Bellic or something. This section is unreasonably long, filled with the same janky platforming I talked about earlier, along with an eagle that randomly attacks you for no reason, cause fuck you, I guess. Once you finally get the feather, you assume you just automatically teleport to Calmwater's camp because it took so damn long to climb up the mountain, right? Mission accomplished, you know? Nope, you now have to climb down the mountain as well, then go all the way back to the camp. Unnecessary padding is fun, but surely all that mountain climbing and rabbit hunting must lead to something important. Calmwater just gets killed by a couple dudes and Billy gets taken captive, making this entire level completely pointless to the game's story. Why? Believe it or not though, these sections were even worse in the original version of the game, which is the European version. You see, the version I'm playing is the North American version, cause I'm American, which came out a year later alongside the 360 version, and this version has quite a lot of differences, including motion capture animations, shiny new graphics, I guess, and most importantly, reworkings of certain levels, mostly regarding the opening Billy level. In the North American version, after Billy gets caught, you know, he jumps out of Susie's room where this bald man calls out to his goons to kick his ass for that ass. This results in a pretty short chase sequence that lasts like a minute before you move on to another section. However, in the European release, it's actually a stealth sequence that lasts for a total of 7 to 8 whole minutes, not counting fails. Failure! Which will feel like a lifetime with how slow the stealth sections already are. So yeah, Billy's levels, what the fuck were they cooking here? But with all this dissing towards Billy and his levels, you would think that Call of Juarez is a pretty bad, sluggish game that is very far from a 10 out of 10 badass seal of approval. But Call of Juarez has one holy savior who absolutely carries it from a 4 out of 10 to a 7.5 out of 10. Like a god coming to save his people from the reckoning, that savior is Ray McCall. Chad Ray McCall is just 30 times better than the Virgin Billy in almost every single way. He's pretty much the main star of the game. He's prominent on all the covers, promotional material mostly centers around him. The first trailer of the game showed him just gunning down a bunch of guys. He's the true main character of the game, and for a very good reason. He's an actual interesting and nuanced character with really great voice acting from Mark Alamo, who just elevates him to a whole new level with his voice acting.
For 20 years, I followed the light and denounced the darkness. Day in and day out, I labored to save lost souls. All for you, Lord. So why have you forsaken me? How could you let this happen? Help me, Lord, please. Tell me, what do you want from me?
He's an old preacher haunted by his past, being forced to go back to his old ways of revolver swinging action, and God is it glorious. Ray's gameplay is like drinking the most pure river water this side of Alaska after running in the swamps of Florida drinking warm root beer. There's no silly platforming or boring stealth in sight. It's just good old shoot guy dies type gameplay. But it isn't just simple shooting and gunning, as Ray has possibly the greatest weapon in FPS history, right up there with the BFG and the Half-Life shotgun, the Bible. What use does the Bible have for gameplay, you may ask? Well, when Ray uses it during a gunfight, he recites quotes from it, to which enemies usually stop what they're doing and listen to his sweet preachings from the heavens, thinking about every decision they've made in their life and if God would approve of them. And then you can shoot them in their silly little faces. It's not always useful, especially in the more crowded gunfights where some enemies are Reddit atheists, but god damn it, the fact that this exists in the way it does just makes me want to use it all the time. The only thing that could make it even better is if God himself struck lightning into whatever enemy that Ray cites the quotes upon. It's just a blast playing as Ray dual shooting revolvers into crowds of brainless cowboy outlaws. But it can be a little hard sometimes dealing with all these moonshine bozos. That's where the concentration mode comes in. The anti-ADHD mode. Concentration mode triggers when Ray holsters 1 or 2 revolvers, and then with the press of the Z key, slows down time for Ray to gun down multiple bad guys with 2 aiming reticles before they do a Dragon Ball Z fusion dance and form back together in the center. It can be a pretty useful feature for large-scale gun battles with dozens of enemies, but not great for standard shootouts where you'll just be frantically looking around for guys to kill until the slow-mo stops. How dare they? Every single person should give themselves up to the almighty Ray McCall, and everyone who tries to hide or run away from him will make an apology video to God, who is also Ray McCall. But overall, it's a pretty fun mechanic to use that makes shootouts a bit more easier to go through, because the Wild West don't fuck around, man. Fire is also used pretty commonly throughout Ray's levels, with the use of lanterns which you can throw or shoot at to set enemies on fire, which is a neat addition that not many FPS games had back then, and even now. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. The levels are also better designed, as it's a lot more clear on where to go and are more linear, which trims a lot of the unnecessary fat that Billy levels had. Although they don't have a lot of variety, I would still pick them any day over Billy's bigger than Dave Blunt's type levels. Ray can also take a lot more damage than Billy since he's wearing armor that shows that maybe he likes God, I'm not really sure. So he's very much a Wild West Doom guy with a Bible in hand for good measure. Ray's sections aren't anything too special as they kinda use Half-Life 2's template for gunplay, but they do enough to have a distinct identity to them with the Bible, fire, and concentration mode that fits very well within the Wild West setting. Like, this is Call of Juarez, not Call of Your Mom. Oh, come on, that was a really genius joke. Though there's still a few problems. There's weapon degradation, which can get in the way of the fun shooting. Like you're just having a chill, relaxing time killing people and creating thousands of widows, then suddenly, oh fuck, my gun exploded, there's no way I'm ever gonna recover from this. But it isn't too big of a deal. However, the second problem is much worse, as this stupid ass platforming shows up in Ray's levels too. To be fair though, it's only used in a few of Ray's levels, but each time it's used, it's still not good, as since Ray is, well, old, he's not as agile as Billy and thus can't climb up anything. This can be really frustrating, as the game's aforementioned use of physics is again really finicky, and you'll spend more amount of time than expected to get Ray's old ass up a ledge. But again, thankfully this type of stuff is only used very sparingly within Ray's levels, and his feet is planted firmly in the ground for the most part. I say most part as there are horses. You can ride them. You can eat them. Both Billy and Ray can ride horses, and they're pretty efficient to control. They're fast, they're agile, they jump, and they look fabulous, if only they had armor. They're pretty fine to control, surprisingly enough. I never found them frustrating to control, and the only hitch I had with them was trying to shoot while riding them, where it can be pretty shaky to aim. Don't worry though, a good old slap in the ass should do the trick. The duels are also fine as well. You just wait for bell to ring, then you draw a gun and shoot guy. That's pretty much it. There are also fistfights in the game. They suck, but I would much rather watch this over any Steven Seagal fighting scene. Overall, Ray's levels are just a hell of a good time, and definitely saves this game from being just bad Eurojank. The pure satisfaction you get from killing guys with dual-wield revolvers is a feeling of pure heaven. Officer, I was talking about Call of Juarez, I swear. So that's Call of Juarez's gameplay, and it's very much a yin and a yang, with the yang having some really fun cowboy shooter gameplay, and the yin being complete drudgery. Presentation-wise, the game is very good looking for a 2006 game, at least in terms of the environments. Everything is lush, vibrant, and colorful, with great, almost photorealistic at points, texture work, most of the time anyway. Beautiful light rays, and most importantly of all, you can actually look at the character model's legs and feet. Oh, I'm gonna upload this onto WikiFeet. But there are some dark spots though, mostly in character animations. Even with the motion capture found in the North American version, the cutscenes aren't gonna get the YouTubers crying and shitting in their pants. It's obvious that Techland didn't have the budget for more cinematic cutscenes, so some of the more emotionally driven cutscenes just end up feeling awkward. I also faced quite a few bugs since this is a Eurojank game after all, mostly involving Satan trying to pull Ray to hell, but luckily Ray fought back with his godly spirit and came back to life. The voice acting is pretty good for a lot of the characters. Ray, like I said before, has some amazing voice acting, with Mark Alamo absolutely nailing the sorrow and might in Ray's tone. His voice acting is so good that I'm just going to play one of his loading screen monologues.
Oh, Lord. It is on this Sabbath day in this empty church that I pray to thee. What am I to do not to lose faith in the people of this town? Please, God, give me the strength to lead these sinners to righteousness. Last night, the demons of my past visited me in a nightmare. What are you trying to tell me? That the citizens of Hope are descending into darkness, just as I was once, trapped in the shadows of Satan's embrace? I personally invited every last soul in town to today's service. I will bring them your word, Lord. I will show them the way.
Billy, on the other hand, like everything else surrounding him, is very lackluster. His voice actor, David Taylor, star of such banger hits such as, what? Really tries to pull off a scared lone wolf kid voice, but he just can't. It sounds more like he has to go to the bathroom to take a shit, but he's far too dedicated to simply go in the middle of recording, so he's just shitting himself.
That was Ray, Reverend Ray, right there on that cliff, looking at me like death itself. He's crazy. That asshole won't rest till I'm dead and buried. I gotta find a horse or he'll catch up with me. It's still a few miles to the ranch and I think I sprained my damn ankle. The soldiers almost had me. I wouldn't have gotten away at all if all hell hadn't broken loose.
Go to the bathroom. I can smell you shitting yourself!
Also, he doesn't even try to do a stereotypical Mexican accent, as he just does his regular white guy accent, which doesn't make any sense as Billy's actual parents are as Mexican as Drake Bell and Taco Bell. As for the game's story, it's surprisingly decently written for a mid-budget 2006 Wild West game. It's not going to win any Spike TV Video Game of the Year awards or anything, but it's worth exploring and paying attention to at least. Billy's side of the story is not really all that interesting, as he follows a very basic, "oh, I used to be a boy, but now I'm a man" self-discovery type of arc. Not a bad type of arc per se, but Billy's character is also not all that interesting to make me really care that much about it. He has a pretty bland as bread personality, as a lot of what he says is, "oh, I gotta go to this place, I gotta go to this person, oh, Ray is very scary, I gotta stop running." And his backstory is just, people don't like me all that much and I failed finding the gold of Juarez, oh no. And that's pretty much it. He's mainly used as a vehicle to drive the plot forward in service to the Sigma male that is Ray. Ray anchors the story greatly. He's a broken old man tormented by his sinful past, trying to redeem himself by becoming a man of God and getting clean from violence until he, well, doesn't. As he is alerted by what happens at his brother's farm by a woman with really stellar voice acting.
Reverend Ray, I heard gunshots at your brother's farm!
And sees Billy running away from the scene of his dead brother's slain corpse once he gets there, which leads to him mistakenly believing that Billy is the killer, and feels a great sensation from God that he has to punish him in any way he can, despite him not being a part of the law in any way. The only law he trusts is God himself, and so begins his chase for Billy. At first, Ray is a pretty bitter, judgmental old man, like how most old men are.
Well, I think you're an overeducated 27-year-old virgin who likes to hold the hands of old ladies who are superstitious and promises them eternity.
He doesn't take shit from no one except God, and what God is telling him, kill the bastards. But that all changes in episode 8, where Ray guns down Billy after he finally finds him in a farm, where Molly gets kidnapped by fraud deputies that Ray briefly worked with to conquer his goal of killing Billy. And after he fails to get her back, he starts to wonder if maybe he is the bad guy. Maybe he is the baddie who's been wanting to kill an innocent kid out of pure foolishness, which is something that Ray feels God abhors, of course. And so starts a change of heart for Ray as he tries to save Molly from her doom and eventually squash his beef with Billy. I like Ray's arc a lot more than Billy's, as he has a lot more going on with him than Billy and has actual nuance. Going from a guy who's actually doing more harm than good, believing that he is doing good, to him realizing that fact and trying to change his ways in earnest. And if you play the prequel, Bound in Blood first, where he's a lot more of a merciless outlaw who doesn't really care about human life, it makes his story in the first game very satisfying to see as he saves both Billy and Molly from Billy's actual father, Juarez.
Say that again?
Who was actually the one who committed the murders out of pure spite for Thomas stealing his girl, Marissa. The end of the game ties the story up in a pretty nice way. Billy finds the gold after Juarez orders him to by doing a sleeping dogs combo on his ass, only for Juarez to follow him anyway and take it all for himself, leading to a chase sequence where Billy comes face to face with Ray. Only for Ray to help him out. Ray then apologizes for being so judgmental with his accusations of murder towards him, and faces Juarez and his goons head-on in an almighty shootout. Billy's interactions with Ray causes him to make the realization that riches and fortunes aren't the things that matter most in life, it's yourself. So Billy decides to man up and go inside Juarez's fortress all alone, where he kills Juarez and saves Ray and Molly, only that Juarez did a Bret Hart and was wearing armor all along and shoots Ray dead. Despite him flopping like LeBron James and that Ray was also wearing armor and he shot him in the chest area, guess Juarez was wearing that plot armor. But whatever, they have a very climactic and very heart-pounding fistfight. where Billy wins of course, only for Juarez to get back up and prepare to backstab Billy Team Fortress 2 style, but luckily Ray got the last stand perk from Modern Warfare 2 and shoots his ass before peacefully dying. Billy and Molly bury Ray in a cemetery nearby, where Billy monologues that he is done running and now he's gonna be his own man. The end. So that's Call of Juarez' story, and it's a pretty good one. Sure, some things don't make sense, like why was Billy's first location in mind when running away from law officials accusing him of murder was some random girl that he flirted with for a bit until her father kicked him out of his farm. But for what it is, it's solid, and its message is something I think the world needs now more than ever. That being, just don't be greedy, you worthless gooners. So what else is there to do after you complete the main campaign? There's a multiplayer that was pretty fun when it was active, but I can't really play it because it's LAN, and I think that's pretty telling about how old this game is. Okay, so quick little heads up from future editing, Adam. So you know that whole spiel I just spat out that you just heard like 2 seconds ago about how I couldn't play Call of Juarez 1 multiplayer because it was LAN and I couldn't find anything on it. Oh no, what the hell am I supposed to do? I can't play this. Well, that wasn't the reason why I couldn't play Call of Juarez 1 multiplayer. It was because like a few months before I even started like writing the script, before I even started recording footage for Call of Juarez 1, Techland, for some ungodly, unholy fucking reason, shut down the servers for Call of Juarez 1 multiplayer. It was in last August, and I wasn't aware of this. I was not aware that they shut down the servers for it. There was no Twitter post about it. There wasn't even a fucking, like, Tumblr post about it. They didn't say jack shit about shutting down the servers. I don't know why they shut down the servers at such a random date, like, recently, like, just like last year they shut down the servers. I don't know why. Maybe like an employee tripped up on a cable or something. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck happened. So that's why I couldn't play Call of Juarez 1 multiplayer until I found out that there is a mod out there on ModDB that basically revives the Call of Juarez 1 multiplayer. I think the modders who made it like a month after the servers got shut down, so they were really quick on that. And the way of installing the mod is really simple. All you have to do is just download the mod, download the file folder, and then put all the files into the folder where the Call of Juarez 1.exe file is. And that's all you really have to do to play Call of Juarez 1 multiplayer. So if you're really fiending for Call of Juarez 1 multiplayer in the big 2026 for some reason, you can now with that mod. Just go to ModDB, download the mod, and that's all you have to fucking do. Simple as that. So yeah, that was a little heads up there, a little update from future editing Adam. But back to stupid, ignorant past Adam with his nonsense. Let's go back to him. There's also bonus missions exclusive to the 360 version, following a deputy that's pretty much in the same vein as Ray's levels, but they don't really have much to do with the rest of the Call of Juarez cinematic universe, and the story is pretty unremarkable, so you're fine without them. But yeah, that's Call of Juarez, and when Call of Juarez released, it was met with a rather mixed response from critics, with most of them praising Ray's levels, but not being all that big on Billy's levels, which was the reason why Techland restructured some of his stealth sections in the 360 version, but it didn't really improve the game's reception all that much. But most people recognize the potential that Call of Juarez had. Techland just needed to get rid of the sludge that was Billy's levels, iron and polish certain areas, and boom, they have a $1 billion quadruple A franchise up their roll mops. And while the game didn't sell all that well in North America, with only 137,000 copies shipped across both the 360 and PC versions, it did pretty well in Europe. Though exact sales figures are unknown, it did well enough for Techland to credit it as putting them on the map as a developer, and for Ubisoft, the publisher for the North American versions, to commission another game, which would prove to be the right move as it would give Techland the opportunity to make a great game that improves on pretty much everything from the first game, mostly by not having Billy being there acting like a Temu Solid Snake, and that game would be Call of Juarez Bound in Blood. But that's going to be a video for another time. Another Morbin time. I don't fucking know anymore. But is the first Call of Juarez worth playing today? It's complicated. While everything revolving around Ray is definitely a highlight, everything revolving around Billy is definitely a lowlight, as his levels really bog the game down, and prevents it from being a total recommendation towards anyone who's interested in Wild West games. If you're searching for a pure shootin' and hootin' Wild West game, play the other games in the series, or play any of these games, as they have way better execution and grace than this game. No offense to Reverend Ray, of course, I will amend my blasphemy, sir, I promise. But it isn't awful though, and if you're someone who's a fan of Eurojank games, then maybe this one will pique your weirdo interest. It can always get worse. Huh, that was odd. I should really take my schizo meds. But yeah, that's Call of Juarez 1, and I don't know how to end this video. I'll end it like this. Sex.